Hey fellas, welcome to Guys in Grief, sponsored by Emma's Footprints and First Candle. We started this podcast for fathers like us that have experienced pregnancy or infant loss. You see, when we went through these life-changing experiences, we struggled to find resources that were specifically for men in support of navigating this grieving process. We're not doctors. We're not psychiatrists. We're three friends. We're grieving fathers that have been through the unthinkable and want to help others by talking about the unique and often undiscussed perspective of men that have experienced child loss. We welcome you to join us on this journey. Share your stories, the challenges, laugh with us, maybe shed a tear or two, and help each other as we navigate honoring our children, grief, supporting our family, and trying to find better days ahead. Let's get into it. Well, hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Guys in Grief. I'm Brad.
I'm Bryan.
I'm Brandon. Oh, sorry, we were jumping over each other. We haven't been here for a while.
Yeah, I was so excited.
It's been a few weeks, boys.
It's been a few weeks.
Yeah, calm it
My
down.
How you guys doing?
Doing good. How about you?
I'm good. Did you guys enjoy the Super Bowl last night? I know.
Yeah,
this will be
listeners, we
released
were recording
later.
this the Monday after the Super Bowl. Who really cares because the Bills weren't in it? But yeah, it was a hell of a game, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good one. It was a good one. Yeah,
Big
I was
question.
hoping both teams lost.
Was it holding on that last play?
No.
That
He
near
said
loss?
it was.
I
He
know
said it was.
No
but
way it was holding.
with the
Do you
replay,
think that was like a so he doesn't get fired from the refs?
I don't think it would have changed the outcome of the game, so that's why I don't
Fair.
believe in like the
The
bitching
NFL
about
is
the refs.
rigged.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
But no, it definitely
seemed
was not
kinda-
holding.
Yeah, it seemed kind of
The only thing
Yeah.
I don't like about it is they didn't call anything like that all game. Right?
Absolutely.
Like, it was
Agreed.
the one call that was really kind of a standout. So, but it
Yeah,
was an unbelievable game. Kudos to Kansas City and Mahomes and
Agreed.
the whole crew.
I just
Pretty
wish I didn't
impressive.
have to watch his brother do a TikTok dance in the background when he was celebrating.
Yeah. We're
by
not
that
done
time we
with
turned it off.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, my
exactly.
gosh. By
All
that
right,
time
guys. Well,
turned
we
it
have
off.
an unbelievable guest, and so let's get into our G&G Q&A because we want to get him in here as soon as we can too. So, Bryan Scruton, take it over, my man.
All right. So this week, we really want to dive into the value of fundraising and giving back to the community in honor of your lost one. We've talked about it on other episodes. I myself did a bowl-a-thon, which was very helpful. It was something I was already doing prior to the loss of Boston, but we talked about it with Mitch, a former guest, where he did the cornhole tournament. So I'll send it off to Brad, but talk a little bit about what things you did to give back to the community and how it made you feel.
Yeah, it was. It took some time for me to be comfortable in that space. This whole grief experience and talking about it, putting yourself out there, and especially, the nature of our first loss with Beckham and, the decision that we made. It was, somewhat isolating for a while for Jessica and I. And so, and as I've said, every single episode, our losses were during COVID. So things were really happening as much at those times. But it was really, and this is a nice little nod to about 10 minutes from now. But it wasn't until we moved to Pittsburgh and found Emma's Footprints that we really found a home, if you will, and a nonprofit that not only supported us through everything, but where we felt truly compelled to have an outlet to be able to give back, and started to partner with them on walks and obviously the creation of this podcast. The first person I reached out to post talking to Brandon and Bryan was Tracy Dailey, the founder of Emma's Footprints. And I would say we've participated in a bunch of walks, a bunch of fundraisers. We haven't yet done something, and we want to, whether it's a toy drive or an event specifically aside from honoring our children during the Emma's Walk. We haven't gotten there yet, and we really want to. But I think, what I can take a little pride here and a big smile on my face is Guys in Grief is the biggest give back that we can, that I've found an opportunity to do to honor our children.
That's great, B.
What about you, Brandon?
I think for me, I haven't done anything like, bowl-a-thon or anything of that sort. But I think just locally we have a support group that we've been going to for 4 years now. So it's like we kind of became the community within that. With new fathers coming in, I'm so, hey, how you doing? Like, what's going on? I like more communicative like that. Just, hey, if you have any questions, text me, give me a call, so on and so forth. And now with this podcast, also now reaching out, hey, take a listen to this, see what's going on, see if you enjoy, take from it what you want and go from there. But I think also within that, just communicating with other people who don't know, much about these type of things, and just giving them the information that I have about my story and about a couple other people's story, about you guys' story, and just letting them know, like, hey, like, if you have any questions about this stuff, just ask. So I think that's where my community outreach, I guess, stands with this. I did toy drive, or giving toys to, hospitals, but that's not as
we're kind of in the same boat, Brandon.
Yeah,
right? We participated in a lot of other people's things, but we haven't yet done our own thing. And
exactly.
And Bryan, I think you'll be able to talk so beautifully on this because of the bowl-a-thon and everything. But like, I feel such an amazing. It's very cathartic, and I can see the value of why these things are so impactful. And Jessica's not really comfortable, not yet at a point emotionally to go out and do that. And fellas listening, I think that's an important thing, to make sure the communication with you and your spouse is strong of what you can and can't do, and when you're ready to start to step into that space. Bryan, you and Lindsay have done such a beautiful job of stepping into that.
Yeah, thank you. And I think you just made a really good point there with communicating with your spouse, because and I'll talk about it a little bit, but when I joined the board of First Candle, one of our co-sponsors, it was really important for me to keep Lindsay involved in that process and what we were doing. So there's sort of two aspects of it. There's the raising money and giving it to an organization that is close to your heart, in honor of your lost one. And then there's actually participating with an organization that is causing change and helping families. And, in my case, First Candle, we met the executive director, who happens to live in Connecticut. Very similar story to Emma's Footprints, which I'm excited to learn more about. But she brought me on. She helped us a lot. And now I feel like, being a part of the board, I can participate in helping other families hopefully not go through what we went through, because ultimately that's what you want to do. You want to, if you can help one family out there with safe sleep education, we've made a difference. So it's been very fulfilling. I mean, community service in general is fulfilling, but I think you guys bring up some good points, that the time has to be right. And I think your partner needs to be on board with it, because sometimes that can be difficult, where you're doing all this active stuff, and if you're not sort of bringing your partner along with you, it can be, that you can make them feel lonely a little bit. So I think that's really important, but it's definitely an outlet, I think, for a lot of dads out there. It might not be for everyone. And, as you guys say, you can participate, but you don't have to organize. But
absolutely. That's a great call out. Let me ask you a question, Bryan, with First Candle, because you've been on the board for a couple years now, and it was maybe a year plus or so after Austin passed that how did you get comfortable, right? Like, I think that's the learning that we've got here for other fellas, is like, when did you know that the time was right, and how did you feel comfortable stepping into that space? Yeah,
it's a great question. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the Q&A, I had already been organizing this bowl-a-thon annually. So the infrastructure was in place for that. And we lost Austin in January, and the bowl-a-thon is every November. So First Candle, as we got to know Allison, the executive director, that was an easy beneficiary for the bowl-a-thon, for the money that we raised. And that year, I think it was over $100,000. So it was really nice to just see the support too, because, I didn't know how I was going to feel going into it, but you just you jump into it head first. You go into the deep end, and you don't I guess I didn't know how I was going to feel, but then you see the outpouring of support and, all the people that are there for you, essentially, it felt really good. And I think that was the launching pad for me to become a little bit more serious with First Candle, to say, okay, that bowl-a-thon went well. We also do a toy drive for Austin every year, which we talked about, because his birthday falls right around Christmas. So there's no right answer to time frame. I think I just had a unique situation where I already had an event that I was throwing, and I didn't want to cancel it because we were doing really great things and raising a lot of money. So at the end of the day, I'm so happy I did that, and it's sort of given me another purpose, as I grieve, and it makes it's fulfilling for sure.
Amazing, man.
We thank you. Yeah, we thank you for that. Thank you.
Yeah. And that's a good transition into Bryan.
Completely, right? And so as we talk about the reason we started with the G&G Q&A around fundraising and getting active post a loss is because we are honored to be joined, and we're going to welcome in Bryan Dailey into the studio here. We are honored to be joined by Bryan, who, along with his wife, Tracy, who we've alluded to previously, are the founders of Emma's Footprints, our incredible sponsor and the amazing non-for-profit. So, Bryan Dailey, how are you, man?
Good. I'm well. How are you guys?
Doing well.
Doing great.
Well.
Thanks for joining us. We just love having names start with B.
Yeah,
I know, right?
A lot of B's.
Names that start with B. And as Bryan Dailey, I know I asked. Oh, did we lose him?
Oh, we might have lost him. Huh.
It's all right. I can edit this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He is probably freaking out.
Lobby, admit, someone out.
Oh, there
Wi-Fi.
I got him.
Tracy, what'd you do to the Wi-Fi?
There, I'm back. I got kicked.
There we go.
Welcome back.
All right.
There we go.
Wi-Fi, or did you
it's on Wi-Fi,
did you hit hang up?
So it comes and goes. Hopefully.
Oh, good.
That's good.
We can edit that part out.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
All right, so we'll pick back up with the.
Hey, man, no problem.
Yeah,
Bryan.
Pleasure.
We're so happy to have you, and I know we had you adjust your camera, but I'm going to have you prop up for a quick second here to show your shirt. We did not pay you to do this, but another Buffalo Bills fan here on the pod. We got some love. That's right.
Let's go Buffalo.
I'm glad we have that in common.
Let's
we got the
go,
BRs in
Buffalo.
common. The B word, let's go. And
That's right.
Jeez. Stars align. I'm just saying.
So Bryan Dailey, so we're honored to have you here, and I think there's a couple of really interesting things, and we want to rewind the clock with you for your time of your loss and how you got to the real quick. Let's just pause. We're
Turn
getting a
down
lot of feedback.
your mic,
Yeah.
Bryan.
You think that's my mic?
No, other Bryan.
mine here.
Turn down your volume on your laptop. Yep. All right. B. We don't hear it now, right?
Yeah, it's much better.
Yeah.
Okay, there. It was just a caller. Turn down your radio. That's all it was.
So, Brad, you want to just start over again, because we'll edit out losing the video, and
Do we want to
introduce
pick
Bryan
up like
again.
the introduction of Bryan?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Bryan Dailey, you good with that?
All right, so everyone.
Perfect. All right, so everyone, awesome G&G Q&A, and we are honored to be joined here by an incredible guest. And there's a reason that we focused on what we did in G&G Q&A on fundraising and nonprofits, because we are joined by Bryan Dailey, who, along with Tracy, his wife, are the founders of our sponsor, Emma's Footprints. So, Bryan, pleasure to meet you. Welcome to Guys and
Pleasure to
Grief.
meet you guys as well. Thanks for having me. I'm pumped. I've listened to all 6 episodes and your intros, and I'm really proud of you guys for getting this going and creating a space for guys to share, and I'm pretty flabbergasted by the fact that this is the only one in North America. I think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I already know the interview is going to go well just because of the attire that you're wearing for the interview.
Hey, I'm telling you what, man.
We got some more Bills love.
Not going anywhere. I hope we see one in this life.
That's right.
I love it.
We will
too, by the way, listeners. Like, we did not partner with Emma's Footprints. They're based out of Erie, Pennsylvania, and so just happened to be Bills love all over the country. So, Bryan, take us back a little bit. We want to learn a little bit about you. So, I know you've got 3 boys. So, who's your dad? What does he do? Tell us a little bit about your kids, and what do you do outside of Emma's Footprints? Because we're certainly going to spend a lot of time on that.
So, Tracy and I have been married almost 20 years. Been together 20 years, married 17. We have a 17-year-old son who just turned 17 last 2 weeks ago. That is Jackson. Yeah,
Jackson.
God bless you.
And we have a 13-year-old son, Caleb, and a 11-year-old son, Bennett. And so we got 3 boys that are very active into sports, and we follow them all around and chase them all around. And I've coached them all the way up since 3rd grade. I do 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade basketball. I've coached for almost 20 years. So I really enjoy that. So my 5th grade team just went undefeated this year. We're 21-0. So in this area, and they're starting track.
Not a big deal.
So we'll be in Buffalo in a couple weekends at the X-Gen Center, and then we're going to Cleveland this weekend and go to Pittsburgh, and we qualified for states. So it's just fun. We're a big sports oriented family. So it's
well done.
Nice. When you're in Buffalo, you give me a call.
Nice. When you're in Buffalo, you give me a call.
Yeah.
And when you're in Pittsburgh, you give me a call. We got some catching up to do. So, and Bryan, what do you do professionally?
I've done concrete. I'm a concrete contractor, so I've done concrete and masonry my whole life, and I've built 15 houses. So I'm working on my 16th house right now, and I've just been in construction all my life. It's been a family thing, and so yeah, all year round we're just busy building and constructing and designing and doing fun
That's
stuff.
Understandable.
Yeah,
That's fantastic.
I am the least handy man, like, in Pennsylvania, so
it might be in the country, Brad.
Yeah. I can do a little bit. bit. So, tell us about Emma. I know. So it's been what I'm so excited about you for multiple reasons, and obviously the power of Emma's Footprints, but also your loss. You're the first person that we've talked to who's experienced a loss almost over 15 years ago, right? So tell us a little bit about what that was like with Emma.
So listening to your
and what happened
episodes, really, you talk about triggering a lot, and you talked about just numerous things. I related to almost to numerous things. But being, 15 years in, she'll be 16 May 30th. We've been through a lot over the years, and I'm one of those guys that checked out immediately, and I was not there for Tracy. There was nothing at that time. So we kind of both just went our own ways and just grieved. By God's grace, we're married and we're still together, and we've had, a pretty good run, and we're getting along better than ever. But it was a rough go for the first, 5 years of it, and I don't remember a lot of it. I know you guys have mentioned that in some of your talks, and people will mention things, and then it brings to memory, so there is imagery in there of of memories, but I just kind of tune it out. And so I was a late griever. I'm actually probably over the last 3 or 4 years have just started to process my own grief. I was angry for a long, long time. And, like I worked 100, 120 hours a week. I drank. I mean, my coping mechanisms were so bad because there was no support system. And, Tracy and I didn't know what to do for many of the early years. And, I was angry at God, like big time a man of faith. And, he's shown up a lot in my life, but at that time, you know, I didn't know what to do. And even like just hearing you guys in these last few episodes has really brought to mind some of the things that I experienced as a child and the dysfunction that I grew up in, with not growing up with a dad, and just a lot of different things that happened to me along the way that when I think about grief, I never really grieved the things that I experienced as a child, let alone the trauma that I faced when I lost a child. So Tracy and I are really, like, we're growing closer now, but it's taken a lot of work, and I've learned a lot along the way. But we were thrown into it immediately, and I think Tracy didn't want other people to feel what she felt, so she dove in face first into what she does now with Emma's Footprints. And I kind of just followed alongside and supported her, and I showed up at every event and everything we did for people, and like I was just there, hands on. You know, I'm a very relational person, so I can talk to anybody, and I can pull stuff out of people. I can read people really well. That's just my business background and dealing with customers and just really caring for people. So God He put us together, and we're a great team, but I think we're just now learning. I mean, 20 years in, how good we can be, even though Emma's Footprints has grown immensely, and that's just due to the need that's out there, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Bryan, you talked a little bit about diving into work as sort of a coping mechanism. And I know we've talked a lot about that on previous episodes. Can you just elaborate a little bit? You know, you said you had a lot of anger too. How did you get back to work and deal with that anger? You know, because it's probably buried inside, you know, like a lot of us
I don't know that I ever really dealt with it. I did what was comfortable, and for me, work was comfortable, so I could disappear and just go. It made me feel good because I could see something that I accomplished at the end of the day, and I've always had that. So, but I got lost in that for a long time. I never really dealt with my anger until, honestly, we had Caleb, and then I started reinstilling some hope in me, and then we had Bennett, and I was like, okay, like, well, I'm not, you know, but all along the way, never dealing with the grief of losing Emma, you know, never really talking to very many people about it, and Tracy and I never really talked much in the first good bit of years. So work has always been my coping mechanism, and, you know, even till today, like, I've become more accountable to it, so I work less, but I have to work because Tracy's running an organization, and you know, we decided when we started that she would not get paid, and so we kind of, you know, we live frugally, and it's tight at times, but you know, we're blessed. Like there's always work. I just got to balance it, you know.
Right. Yeah. Bryan, can we go back to 2007? Emma was stillbirth, correct? And so we're talking here in 2023, and all of our losses have been roughly in the 2020s. And we know today, we're the first ever podcast in North America. Resources. The reason we started this is because there are no resources. So I can only imagine what it was like 15 years ago. Can you shed a little light on some of the things that you may have heard us talk about previously? How much was there for Tracy at that moment in time, and what did you feel like because I think maybe a lot of our listeners that have gone through loss in a similar time frame as you may say like, oh yeah, Brandon, Bryan got it a lot easier than I did 15 years ago because at least there's something. What was it like back in 2007 in this space?
We were fortunate enough to have, there was I don't know if I'd call her a doula, but there was a woman on the floor at that time that she worked with empty arms. So she was there and I don't know, she just really consoled us through the whole process because when Tracy went in that morning, she went in with her mom because I was working. I was like, she just wanted to go in for a checkup. And they immediately sent her to up to the hospital. And so I had to go up there and, not knowing what was going on, not knowing what was happening, they, there was just so much that day. And her and I never, after we had Jackson, we didn't want to know the sex of the baby. So that we wanted to be surprised. So when we got up to the hospital and they had delivered the news to us and said that she had passed and that we had to give birth, we had to go through that process. And I'll never forget it because the image lives in my brain to this day when Emma came out, because we didn't know if it was a boy or a girl. So she came out and I was like, I looked at Tracy and I was like, it's a girl, because we always had two names picked out for each one after Jackson. And it was as soon as she was born, you look at her, she's just beautiful. There's nothing wrong with her. And obviously it was an umbilical cord accident. So there was, stress marks around her neck and arms. And so yeah, but I'll never forget that image in that day. And but the woman, she immediately just took care of her, and we got pictures. And I was so glad we did that because there's so many stories of people that over the years that don't take that time. And Brandon, I know you said you wish you would have taken video.
Yep.
And thinking about that, I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't know. I don't know if we even thought about that then, but I'm just so thankful we took pictures. Right. And we took time afterwards to just hold her and be with her. And,
yeah.
And, nobody knew what to say. Like my mom was there and my dad was there. My parents were divorced when I was 3, but they were both there. And Tracy's parents were there, but they don't know what to say. And they were just there, and, it's, when I think about it, yes, it was a long time ago, but it was like it was yesterday. It never goes away. And
yeah.
Yes.
I don't know. I think we were fortunate with that experience.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for sharing that.
Like
it's
it will never go away.
Something like you said, it will never go away. Within that, the idea of Emma's footprints, I know that was a kind of a brainchild for both of you guys. How did that idea, obviously we know how the idea came up, but process, so on and so forth, how did that come to intuition and come to this? What it is.
Early on, we really didn't do much for the first few years. Like Tracy was pregnant for 5 or 6 years straight. So we started out with the March of Dimes. Just kind of getting into the community to do something to help other people and to meet people. And then, during that, when Emma was born, we had her little footprints, they stamp them with the ink, right? So we always had those. And
yep.
I'm like a foot guy, so I love feet. Like my wife's feet are the cutest little things. I just love them. So I'm always looking, I'm like, yeah, she has cute feet just like you, And,
my man, Bryan.
Clip mark.
That, So, within, I would say, year 5 or 6, I think our friend group and the people that came around us to support us, there was this kind of buzz to do something, right? To do something more. There's this need, we got to do more. And Tracy was always feeling that tug. So her and Kristen, her co-founder, was just like, we gotta break off on our own, and they did. And we had a friend at the time that came up with the logo, and they're just like, let's just call it Emma's Footprints. We're blessing babies with every step, and like there's, it's there's a lot of I have so many things where God showed up throughout the years with different things, but that was just the beginning of it, and it has blossomed into what it is now. And,
can you talk a little bit about you heard our G&G Q&A. Can you talk a little bit about what being part of Emma's Footprint has taught you? What kind of fulfillment did you get from it? To our listeners.
I'm sorry, could you ask that question again?
Sure. I don't.
Sure. I don't. You were on. Well, we did our G&G Q&A, and I'd be curious to know what kind of values did you learn from participating with Emma's Footprint and starting it, and what things have you learned? Can you talk a little bit about the process of being involved in the organization?
Like the biggest thing that we did from a fundraising perspective was a backyard makeover. So every May 30th, Memorial Day weekend. So Emma's birthday was May 30th. Tracy was like, I want to use your gifts and abilities, and I want to do a backyard makeover for someone. So we would go on the radio, and people would call in their stories, and we would pick a person who submitted a story about their loss, and then we would bless them on that weekend. And we did that for 5 or 6 years straight, amongst all the other little. We'd have balloon releases, and we'd have, get-togethers with different families, and just the being together, the relational aspect of it, and giving people a space to tell their story, was super, super important, and it made people feel safe and feel like, okay, this is someone who gets me. This is a couple that has been through what I've kind of been through similarly, so I don't have to be afraid anymore. I can come out there, and also we bring in this crew of people to your house. It was so awesome, and just coordinating all that stuff, and just seeing the before and after stuff, and just seeing like
some real
people. I mean, people's families that would show up and just be in awe of like, wow, like you're like, and just look at what you do out of a loss, and people show up, people. When they come together in something like that, it's amazing what we can do.
You're really going real HGTV.
Yeah, you're really going real HGTV on us over there. But that's fantastic, my man. Like, honestly, to have, I mean, you're living in a house, you have that memory for life now of, the hard work that you guys are putting in. And also, their story still continues as long as they're living in that house or whatever, so on and so forth. That's commendable, my sir.
The couple lost triplets, and I think it was actually the very first. It might have been the first one we did. Yeah, and we went in there just coordinating the whole thing. I mean, I had my box truck filled. We did a big fire pit and like all this. I did a stamped concrete around it. We have pictures, and I think Caleb was maybe 3 at the time. And I got his picture right here with a little shovel, and we all wore pink shirts for that day with Emma's Footprints on it. So everyone got a shirt. And it's kind of similar to like the walks that we have now. You guys have been to a couple of them or one, and everyone's got their family shirts, and it's just creating that space, right?
Absolutely.
Bryan, you referenced a little bit earlier the impact that it had on your faith in losing Emma. Can you talk a little bit about? I think that's so real, and we've skimmed the surface on that a little bit on other episodes. But can you talk about what faith has looked like for you through grief?
Yeah, I've wrestled with that over the years a lot, and when I was really angry at God in the beginning, and like. And just asking him why, like, why me? Like, what did I do? Like, I felt guilty for a long time. Like, did I do something? And I'm a big believer in God's word. And I would always come back to the story of David and Bathsheba. And when David loses his son, right? And out of his choice and his sin, like, God took his son, and God told him he was going to do that. So I've always questioned that. I'm like, man, did I do something, or did my family do something for this to happen? You know, because I know that, I mean, I believe in that stuff, but I also, I feel like at times I'm just searching for a reason to be angry, right? So, and the more and more that I just surrendered that, God has just given me peace over this last couple of years, even, and allowed me to grieve even more in a healthy way, and let go of some of the coping mechanisms that I have felt or that I've struggled with. Yes, alcoholism has been in my family for generations. Yes, like, numerous things have been in my family lineage that I can already see my three sons struggle with. So when it comes to losing a child unexpectedly, as a man, I'm like, I want to figure it out. Like, and some things I'm just like, I can't Google, right? Like, I can't. I just got to trust the process, and trust what God's doing with it, because I can see the fruit. I can see what He's done with Emma's footprints. I can see He's done so many things. Like, I shouldn't even question it. I shouldn't even question Him. But I'm like, my problem is my own self and the anger that I'm unwilling to let go of, because I want to try and control everything. And He's taught me a lot about that. And marriage does a good bit on that too, and having other kids. And it all plays an effect to that. But
can you talk a little bit about your living children and what they meant to you as you were going through the process? I think if I did my math right, Jackson was one when you lost Emma.
And he knew what was going on. He's
okay.
He knew Mommy had a baby in her belly. He knew that he was going to have a brother or sister, because, like, we're really open with that. And I mean, we have pictures like later on with him, like, touching her belly and different things. So he was a year and probably 18 months when we lost her. And so even to this day, like, we've done family counseling and we've done individual counseling with the kids, and that has helped a lot. But even his anger as a 17-year-old young man comes out, and I've been able to speak to him a little bit, just about the root of that anger, and I've tried to kind of help him relate with my own experience and what I've experienced in my life and my hurt and my pain, to help him process his own, because I know that he sees Mom and Dad have struggled, right? Mom and Dad have had a hard time with this. Like, he knows that. But we both come from a family of stuffers. Like, we just stuff our emotions, and we really struggle to talk about them. So I see that too. So Tracy and I have worked really hard to try and communicate. And you guys, I mean, kudos to you about just saying it's so important to be able to communicate and listen, like, both sides, right? And to having living children, when you go through something like that, it affects them, and you have to wait for the right time to allow them to kind of process on their own, but you still have to parent them, right? So when you see them struggle and you see them going through something, or and Tracy and I, like, in the back of our minds, are like, man. Then I start questioning it again. I start getting angry. I'm like, what the heck, man? This should be way easier. You know? But,
go ahead, Brandon.
I'm going to give just a fatherhood shout out. I watch different male father figures across my friendship group. I watch Brad, I watch Bryan, watch a couple close friends in my group here in Buffalo. a couple other dads, and I take a little bit of what they do. Brad is one of those parents where I watch him just be that ultimate positive enforcement to his son. Hey, we got to do better, but yet he has a hard, hey, get your stuff together, let's go. Bryan, I'm watching him interact with his kids and just the love, like a lot of love, and a few other friends. But I want to commend you on how you're communicating with Caleb, Bennett, and Jackson, and that is, it's a difficult thing for a lot of male, obviously a lot of fathers to communicate with their children. And I want to commend you for doing that. That speaks volumes to me. And I want you to hear that out of my mouth, just saying it to you. Like, I commend you, my sir. Thank you just for being that pillar in your household, pillar in the community of just, supportive and also communication, because that does not happen a lot. And it's great to hear. I'm not gonna lie to you.
We're trying.
Thank you.
We don't do it perfectly, right? But,
and
one of my biggest fears is that we've kind of forced our boys into a lot of different situations, and they'll become angry with us or embittered with us because of, paying too much attention to what happened with Emma, or just the process that God has put us on. And so we try to, that's why we have to communicate. We have to spend time with them, and we have to support them and let them know why, and just what we're called to, and
yeah.
I think it's so powerful, the honesty that you're giving here today, though, too, because I think on the surface, a lot of people would probably think, well, Bryan, Tracy, Dailey, they have this amazing nonprofit that helps so many people. Everything just must be easy, and they must have it all figured out. And the honesty around the difficulty in communication and raising kids and marriage and faith, like, you're going through real life shit just like every other guy in family through this. And it's powerful to hear it from someone like yourself that is so committed to giving back, but also recognizing that you're doing that as life isn't easy. So let's talk a little bit about, as we kind of start to wrap up here, some of the amazing work that you and Tracy and Emma's Footprints are doing. What are some of the things you guys are really proud of and the services that you're providing to families?
Holy smokes. Well, I just want to say first that Tracy is the rock. I mean, like, we should be the statistic, right? She has hung around during my shortcomings and my poor choices and my not being, like, she's strong. Like, she's really, really strong, and she's gifted. And I am who I am because of a lot of what she has instilled in me and stood beside me. So I just want to say that up front. And just to answer your question, like, it just seems never ending at times. It's almost overwhelming, the need that's out there. And I mean, just for instance, right now, like 2 years ago, Tracy felt the Lord call her into starting another branch of Emma's Footprints. I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but it's called Birth Root. And this is a doula program that predominantly focuses on African American women and families that to help educate and come beside them, and just because in a city in Erie is one of the most impoverished cities in the country, right? So, and just from a number standpoint, the Black and brown mamas and babies are drastically, like, the percentages of loss compared to white moms, it's like 24% to 8%, right? So, like, knowing all these numbers and the things that we've learned over the years, and just the lack of what's the word? Just, I just think we've grown tired of information. We've grown tired of people saying and pointing out what's wrong and not doing anything about it. And part of that is being willing to get uncomfortable and put yourself out there and be in relationship with people that aren't like you. And in this area of the country, we're very conservative, very, like, people are set in their ways, people are stubborn, people want to do what they want to do, they're comfortable. And Emma's Footprints is pushing against that grain, and they're going into the hospitals. They want everyone to have, obviously have a healthy baby, right? But a healthy mom and a healthy just family situation, right? And education and all that stuff. So, I mean, they're in every hospital in Erie right now. I mean, they're training doulas to walk beside women. They're support groups once a month for women that have experienced loss. We're planning the walk, planning the gala, which I heard you guys are all coming, which is awesome.
Absolutely.
See you there.
See you there.
Can't wait.
See you there.
I mean, so I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, Bryan, no, it's incredible. I mean, the care packages, the therapy that is provided, all the events, it's incredible. And from the bottom of my heart, and on behalf of G&G here, this podcast would not exist if it wasn't for Emma and for you and Tracy. I know without a shadow of a doubt that I would not be where I'm at today, and my wife would not be where we are if the services that your organization provided weren't available to us. So as difficult as, bringing up old memories and everything may be sometimes, we are honored to have you here, and thank you for sharing Emma's story and for creating Emma's Footprints. We're all benefiting from it. And as we always do, we want to let you have the last word to speak Emma's name and anything that you want to leave us with.
Well, Emma, I know that you're up there with all the rest of your friends, and there's lots of them. And unfortunately, we are a part of a group that we didn't want to be a part of, but we're doing the work that the Lord wants us to do. So we're going to keep doing it together, and one day we will see you and your friends. And I can't wait for that day.
Thank you so much, Bryan.
Thank you so much, Bryan.
Thank you.
I got a feeling Emma's up there maybe today taking a look out for Beckham and Ari and Story and Austin, and she's the teenager up there and looking out for our little ones, and that's I'm going to put that out into the world and think of that happening today.
Well said.
Well said.
Bryan, thank you so much.
Bryan, thank you so much.
Thank you, Bryan.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Honor.
Pleasure to meet you. Looking forward to the gala.
Thank you. Listeners,
thank you. Listeners, thank you once again. Hopefully for those of you that have had their loss a couple years ago, this was a really helpful experience and conversation to have. We look forward to talking to you all next week. Love you guys.
See you.
Love you.
Love you guys.
Love you.
If you valued from this content, we ask you to share this podcast with others that could equally benefit. Leave us a 5-star review on whichever platform you're listening to help us improve our outreach, and to follow Guys in Grief on Instagram and Facebook. Also, if you'd like to join us and share your story, email us at guysandgrief@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week.